Hello and welcome to this lesson on keywords. Very exciting. Okay, so first of all, what are keywords? The definition is right here. Keywords are the important ideas in your thesis statement. Every thesis statement has them. Sometimes, but not always, these keywords are the topics of your body paragraphs. The important thing to remember about keywords is that they must be repeated in the topic sentences in order for the paper to have unity, or in other words, to make sure that your body paragraphs support your thesis. So in other words, the keywords are what help you actually prove your thesis. They link your body paragraphs to your thesis. If you don't have them, you're in trouble. You might have body paragraphs that have nothing to do with your thesis. So let's look at an example. Now this example doesn't come from a theme analysis paper. Keep that in mind. We'll look at a theme analysis paper next. This is an example of a persuasive thesis, but it doesn't matter because a thesis is a thesis and it will always have keywords. So this one was on humor. Some of you may have done a humor unit last semester, and it was particularly on how Mark Twain used humor to get his points across. So here's the thesis. And just, pretend this is a thesis. Notice that the keywords are circled here. So the thesis is, based on Twain's own writings and on those of his predecessors, as well as ample evidence from comedy today, it is indeed evident that discriminating irreverence plays a vital role in our free society. So you might not know what discriminating irreverence means, but basically it means selective irreverence. Irreverence being I don't know how to describe it. If you're not reverent, you are disrespectful. So selective disrespect. So in other words, Twain was using some disrespectful humor in order to keep society free. All right, so that's what the thesis means. Now your key words are Twain, discriminating irreverence, which goes together, and free society. So some version of all of those things actually needs to appear in the topic sentences. Now I do want to point out that although Twain is one of the authors that we're going to talk about, notice it also says predecessors here, and then also comedy today here. So we're going to get to that in the topic sentences. Now, if you scroll down, I have some sample topic sentences, and you can see that I've drawn arrows here to show, at least for the first one, where those keywords end up. So in order to prove this thesis, topic sentence number 1 might be something like this one. Twain himself was a master at using his incisive humor to promote a more free society. So where are the key words? Well, obviously there's Twain. Now notice I changed discriminating irreverence to incisive humor, which basically means the same thing. Synonyms are okay. You should keep that in mind. Synonyms equal okay, because you don't want your topic sentences to get too boring. And then here's free society, which is directly repeated. Now, if you go on to the next topic sentence, which I kind of wrote over, so I will erase that, or not. Never mind, I'll just scroll up. All right, so there in the next topic sentence, we have, before Twain, Benjamin Franklin also used his wit to establish the freedoms we now enjoy. So all three key words do show up. Benjamin Franklin is the predecessor that was talked about in the topic sentence. So that's that key word. And then we have wit, which is the same thing as incisive humor, which is here, or the same thing as discriminating irreverence, which is up here. And then instead of free society in this one, because that was getting kind of boring, I used freedoms. And then moving on, our third topic sentence. Even today, many comedians demonstrate Twain's same discriminating irreverence and not only practice freedom of speech themselves, but also help preserve it for others. So once again, we have many comedians, which is the evidence from Comedy Today that was mentioned in the thesis. And then we have discriminating irreverence directly repeated. And then, once again, instead of free society, we have freedom. So that's how keywords work. Now, let's look at a paper. This was a student paper from last year. This is a theme analysis paper. It is not of The Crucible, it's of Mice and Men, but a lot of you have read of Mice and Men, so you'll be able to follow along with this. And this is a good example of a paper. It's not a perfect paper. You might know Jake, a very good student. It's not a perfect paper, however, it was definitely an A paper. And part of the reason it was an A paper is, first of all, because of the thesis that Jake came up with, and second of all, because it had very strong organization with really good topic sentences. And it also had really good paragraph development, which we'll talk about later. So let's take a look at Jake's thesis. It's here at the end of his introduction, right where it should be. And his thesis is, in the book of Mice and Men, the author John Steinbeck shows through the characters of Lenny, Curly's wife, and Crooks, how the American dream can be so close, but can be taken away due to factors like loneliness, ignorance, and the lack of power. All right, so first of all, before we actually get into the keywords part of this, I want to point out why this thesis works for theme analysis paper. The first criteria is that the thesis identifies a big idea, and the thesis does present a big idea with the American dream, and even has kind of some secondary ideas with loneliness, ignorance, and the lack of power. Now, you guys don't have to do that, but this particular thesis does. So that's number one. Number two, it clearly says what John Steinbeck is showing. It's right there. John Steinbeck shows through the characters, blah, 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 that the American dream can be so close but can be taken away. So I'm not left wondering, okay, what is John Steinbeck saying about the American dream? It is contestable because a reasonable person could certainly argue with whether loneliness, ignorance, and the lack of power can take away the American dream. It's supportable. So it meets, and it can be applied universally as well as just to the book. So this is a thesis that works. All right, so let's go back and look at, whoops, sorry about that. Let's go back and look at keywords. So again, here's our thesis at the end of the paragraph. So one of the things that is always going to be a keyword is your big idea. And the other thing that is going to be a keyword or phrase is what the author's saying about that big idea. In this case, it can be taken away. Now, this particular thesis actually has quite a few other big ideas. So we have, first of all, the characters, and I'm going to underline them here, of Lenny, Curly's wife, and Crooks. And then we also have factors like loneliness, ignorance, and lack of power. Well, guess what? You're not going to talk about each one of those in each body paragraph. Those are the body paragraphs. So I would expect the first body paragraph to be about Lenny. That's one. Second body paragraph to be about Curly's wife. That's two. Third body paragraph to be about Crooks. That's three. And if Jake is doing this correctly, Lenny's lonely, Curly's wife is ignorant, and Crooks has a lack of power. So we'll see if that works. So let's get rid of some of this stuff and look at the topic sentences. So first topic sentence. To begin, Lenny, oh, look there, we have a key word back from the thesis there. Lenny's American dream, there's our other key word, was finally in sight after almost losing it once until he did lose it. So there's the idea of being taken away in the end. So that works. Now, it doesn't name loneliness, ignorance, or lack of power, but we can assume that in the body of the paragraph it's talked about. But there's enough in here that this topic sentence directly supports a thesis. So let's go to the next one. Oops, sorry. Okay, next one, we have Curly's wife, so that was a key word, was close to living her American dream. There's another key word, which was to be rich and happy. Now that doesn't have the key word of the American dream being taken away, but let's look if it's in the next sentence. She has several opportunities to make her dream happen, but there it is, but none of them have worked out well for her. So that's okay. It's not in one topic sentence, but those two sentences taken together work as a topic sentence. All right, and let's go to the next body paragraph. Much like Lenny and Curly's wife, just want to point out here, this is an aside, that's a nice transition from the previous paragraph to this paragraph. But now let's look for key words. So much like Lenny and Curly's wife, Crook's, there it is, Crook's American dream, there it is, was also taken away from him. There it is. So perfect. We have the key words. As I'm reading this paper, I'm not left wondering, okay, what does this paragraph have to do with the thesis? You never want your reader to be left wondering that. All right, we will get back to Jake's paper for other things, but let's take a look at my working thesis. This is my working thesis. Now I changed it a little bit from class, refined it a little bit. So now my working thesis reads, through the character of John Proctor, Arthur Miller shows integrity is determined not by the absence of fault, but by the forgiveness of fault. All right. So that meets all the criteria of a thesis statement. If you want to go through it yourself, go ahead and check it off, but I can pretty much guarantee it does. So the question is, what are the key words? I'm going to give you 30 seconds to see if you can identify the key words in this topic sentence. Then I will tell you. And I will start counting. Okay, so that really wasn't 30 seconds, but it's kind of weird just to sit here. So, what did you come up with? Hopefully, you saw that John Proctor is a key word. I'm going to be, now, according to this thesis, I have to talk about John Proctor in every body paragraph. That's a little bit challenging, but I think I can do it because he is the main character. You might not do that in your thesis statement. You might talk about several characters that develop a theme. Or you might talk about one. My big idea is integrity. Your big idea that your thesis is addressing is always going to be a key word. And then my last key word, and you can kind of take it together, it's kind of a comparison contrast, is absence of fault versus forgiveness of fault. Now, if I had to pick one of those to be the real key word, it's this one. So each body paragraph is going to have each one of these things or synonyms for each one of those things in the topic sentence. Otherwise, the paragraphs won't support the topic sentences. So hopefully you understand what keywords are now. You need the keywords to complete your outline because your outline will have your thesis written out in a complete sentence and each topic sentence also written out in a complete sentence. One of the things I will look for when I grade your outline is that you have those keywords. So if you have any questions about this, ask me in class, but right now, that is the end of this exciting keyword tutorial. See you tomorrow.